This is CBC Winnipeg News.
We are starting the search. We are going to try to bring the remains of your loved ones home.
The search of the Prairie Green landfill is going ahead, and the Premier says work has already begun. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. For nearly 18 months, the families of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron have been waiting for this day. Plans are finally in place and underway for the long push to search for the two women's remains. Late this afternoon, the Premier met with the families and Indigenous leaders and says material from the landfill could begin moving this month. The CBC's Zubina Ahmed has the latest.
I'm here at the Prairie Green landfill, where the remains of two First Nations women, Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris, are believed to be. The families of the victims met Premier Wap Kinew today at the legislature to discuss plans for the landfill search of their remains. They met after closing arguments yesterday in the first-degree murder trial of admitted serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky. Donna Bartlett, grandmother of Mercedes Myron, was there at the meeting with the Premier today. She was relieved that a search will begin soon.
It's going to go forward. The details that they're going to start right away, hopefully by the end of summer or something. They're going to be working they can work right through winter. So it's good. So I'm really happy. My girl's happy. We'll get her home.
Manitoba Premier Wap Kinew says work has already begun on a healing space and other preparations at the site. He also says new information should allow them to narrow down the search area to the day when the remains arrived.
We're looking for May 16, 2022 in particular, and we believe that we have a closer idea of where that is within that three-dimensional location of that part of the Prairie Green site.
The province released papers today that approve a search happening here. It lists 29 mainly environmental conditions. People can appeal until July 10th. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Kinew says the search will take place in 5 stages, and the first stage is well underway. Here's how he broke it down. Work surrounding a budget and environmental approvals has been done. The next step will be to build facilities and do a trial dig to see what workers will be dealing with. That will happen in a different area of the landfill as a pilot. That will start this month. Next, they'll hire workers and train them. Then they'll dig in a target area where they believe the remains of the women are most likely to be. If that's unsuccessful, the search will broaden. Wap Kinew says his team had to wait until after the trial for the man who killed the women was finished. Closing arguments wrapped up yesterday. A judge will decide whether Jeremy Skibitsky is criminally responsible for their deaths next month. Winnipeg's Public Works Committee discussed the first part of its plan to overhaul the transit system. Some transit advocates applaud the changes, but not everyone is on board. CBC's Emily Brass has more from City Hall.
The first phase of Winnipeg's new transit plan calls for bus routes across the city to be changed dramatically starting next June.
We want to have higher frequency. We want to have more dependable service.
Winnipeg Transit would operate high-frequency routes along major roads, while feeder routes would run along smaller streets and connect with primary lines where riders can transfer. Some current bus lines will be eliminated, like the number 10, which runs through Wolseley, downtown, and St. Boniface. Wolseley resident Catherine Martin told the committee canceling that route will make her walk 20 minutes to catch a bus.
So I'm supposed to, in -40, walk to Portage Avenue to catch a bus on the corner of Portage and Arlington, because that's the only stop that has the faster buses and has a shelter. So I don't know how that is even a conceivable idea in winter.
She says that'll be even harder for people with reduced mobility and says not enough consultations were done. Councillors say issues like that might affect a few pockets of the city. Luke says transit will try the new routes for a year, then make adjustments.
Well, sometimes you have to make the decision, bite the bullet, do the routes, deal with the feedback, and fix it if it needs to be refined. Nothing we implement ever will be perfect.
This longtime transit advocate supports the plan, even though it might not suit everyone.
The bus route is not going to be the same one that you used to, but we are moving from a system now that has about 30% of Winnipeggers live within 400 meters, so walking distance of a primary transit stop. And it's going to more than double that to close to 70% of Winnipeggers are going to live within 400 meters of a primary stop.
The first phase of the transit plan still needs to clear the Executive Policy Committee and City Council. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Coming up a little later in the show, we'll hear more on the how then you will be paying for that bus fare could be changing and why more options are being considered. One man is fighting for his life after being stabbed downtown this morning. Police were called to Kennedy and Sargent at noon. Emergency crews could be seen giving one man CPR. He was rushed to hospital in critical condition. Officers have no suspects in custody. It's the second stabbing in the area in the last 24 hours. Officers zeroed in on the suspect driving dangerously at a high rate of speed on Highway 1 near Portage-La Prairie last night. Police tried pulling over the car after stopping traffic in both directions, but the driver sped away, nearly striking an officer. The suspect then got stuck trying to drive through a ditch. Police say he was in a stolen car. A 39-year-old man has been charged with multiple offenses, including flight from police and dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority will investigate the disappearance of a Winnipeg senior with dementia as a critical incident. It comes despite the fact he was living at home and not in the care of a hospital or care home. The WRJ says it's looking into what happened to Earl Moberg. The 81-year-old, who was receiving home care services at the time, walked out of his home in December. He hasn't been seen since. His friends and family have conducted search efforts over the last 6 months. A critical incident is defined by the province as a case where a patient suffers, quote, serious and unintended harm while receiving health care. The health region says the review will show if the system could make improvements or do things differently. Moberg's daughter hopes something good can come out of a terrible situation.
We want to find my dad, and we all want to prevent something like this from happening from anybody else, because it has been it has been incredibly painful and horrible.
Moberg says she also wants to see improvements to the Silver Alert system to notify people in an area if a senior with dementia goes missing. People from Manitoba's Red River Métis community gathered northeast of Winnipeg today to learn about foraging. As the CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports, they found more than just mushrooms and plants on their forest walk.
They'll spew their spores and you step on them and they go poof.
From sage to yarrow, this group spotted dozens of edible and medicinal plants meaningful in Métis culture, with the help of Red River Métis herbalist Dana Wood.
Well, I believe that a lot of the traditional knowledge is being lost over time. So if we can, my goal is to help teach people, keep that education going and that knowledge, that traditional knowledge going, so that they can pass it on to their family members and friends.
More than 20 people scoured the trails and woods of Bel Air Provincial Forest. They found berries.
They use those juniper berries to spice the wild meat, and it takes some of the wild gamey taste out.
And they learned to identify plants, including dogwood.
This was traditionally used by the Indigenous people for pain medication.
Michelle Poirier says it's helping her connect with the Métis community and reconnect with her mother's culture.
I did not grow up like that, and so I'm learning and taking every opportunity that the MMF has to offer.
So the yarrow, sage, red clover.
That's what MMF's Joanne Remillard hoped for participants.
It's also getting back to our culture, our roots, because a long time ago this is what we did. We foraged the forest. right, for our foods. So this is important.
It meant a lot to 82-year-old Angelique Brinkworth to see so many people come out.
You know, you always come away from these events with knowing different people. This is good.
Although edible mushrooms proved to be elusive on Tuesday's outing.
If we would have had some today, we would be cutting them open, and I'd be explaining to people, you know, how to identify them properly, how to prepare them and saute them properly. So that was really good in Métis culture. My grandma taught me that when I was very, very young.
Despite few mushrooms and the rain, they found community and an extra reason to come out next time. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Bel Air Provincial Forest.
CBC weather specialist Riley Lachak is back with me. Well, back with me. You've been with me all day. You're on the desk now. But we've been talking about the start of summer because May long weekend is kind of the unofficial start of summer to everybody. And then we've got official start of summer coming up, and there's meteorological summer.
There's variations of it.
So you already have a look at what we can expect this summer in terms of weather, though.
You know, it's been, if you're looking back to May long weekend, between then and now, it definitely has been damper and cooler than normal. But Environment Canada did release its summer outlook today. Here are a few of the takeaways. We're now in what is considered to be meteorological summer, the months of June, July, and August. June has been off to a bit of a cooler start here in Manitoba, but Environment Canada is predicting that this summer is going to be warmer than normal. Not just for Western Canada, but in fact, much of the country expecting warmer than normal conditions. Now, that might be good if you like a good beach day, but that isn't necessarily good for things like our forest fire season. This is a map showing the probability of above seasonal temperatures. The darker the red, the more likely we are to see temperatures warmer than a normal summer. Here in Manitoba, we're looking at about an 80 to 90% chance of a hotter than usual summer. While it remains to be seen just how hot this summer will be, scientists say they have noticed a trend.
With the climate change that we're experiencing, you know, we do expect that relative to that base period, we're going to predict more warm years than cool ones. So that is definitely one of the drivers of that warmth that we're predicting this summer.
Now, you might be thinking of El Nino. It's something we've heard a lot about, especially through the winter months, but things are changing. In a typical year, east-west trade winds push warmer ocean water toward Asia. However, in El Nino years, those trade winds weaken, keeping that warmer ocean water closer to the Americas. That results in a warmer winter for Western Canada. But those trade winds are now shifting. We're now considered to be in sort of the neutral zone, where we are expected to be for much of the summer. That means those trade winds I was talking about are behaving for the most part. But we will see a shift toward La Nina in the coming months ahead of next winter. Those trade winds are projected to become stronger than normal come next winter, likely causing us to have a colder than normal winter ahead.
We've just finishing a strong El Nino period, where the neutral conditions are predicted for this summer. And in any case, El Nino, La Nina do not strongly influence Canadian climate in the summer.
As for precipitation, Environment and Climate Change Canada says that is a little bit more difficult to predict. Yes, spring and the start of meteorological summer here in June has been quite wet here in Manitoba, but the weather agency is predicting that we'll see less than normal precipitation in the months ahead. And that, of course, leads us to look at your forecast. And we are looking at a little bit of instability over the next couple of days or so moving through Manitoba. So here's a look at satellite radar. We've started and we're still slowly trying to push some of this cloud out of southern Manitoba. Still some showers and some steadier light rain falling through parts of the north, and even a little bit of thunderstorm activity here in the Dauphin Swan River region. If we can take a closer look at that, you can see a little bit of lightning moving through the region. Nothing severe in nature per se, but certainly a few little pockets of some heavier precipitation with some lightning. Looking at how things shape up as we get into your Wednesday, we will clear out as we get into the overnight period tonight. A hint we could see a little bit more instability first thing in the morning across southern Manitoba, but the main event that I'm keeping my eye on is what comes through the later afternoon into the early evening tomorrow, with the possibility, at least according to Futurecast here, of some thunderstorm activity and some pockets of heavier rain and strong winds as we get into the evening hours tomorrow. So be keeping our eye on that. Thursday starts mainly sunny, maybe a scattered shower, but for the most part, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds as we head through Thursday and into Friday, a mix of sun and clouds as well. So we're looking at a little bit of a mixed bag as we kind of get to the end of the week. I can't rule out a few showers though. Wanted to show you the storm energy, the CAPE map, and this is forecast modeling that takes into account all of the ingredients you need to make a thunderstorm, the ingredients for that cake, if you will. And as you can see, as we get into the afternoon hours tomorrow, the ingredients, at least according to this forecast model, fairly good in terms of thunderstorm development, really south of the Trans-Canada Highway, but can't rule out some of that creeping further to the north, especially into the Westman region as we get into the early evening hours tomorrow. In terms of rainfall, I thought I'd show you this. This really does take into account, though, that we could see some thunderstorms, but generally we're looking at a trace to a couple of millimeters as we get through the next couple of days. 20 degrees in Winnipeg. We're starting to kind of warm things up now that the sun has come out, but we are still seeing some very gusty northwest winds, 35 gusting 44 at the airport this hour. Pressure is rising at the moment. As we get into the evening tonight, we really will start to see our winds diminishing as we get into the overnight period. 12 degrees overnight, mostly clear, mainly sunny to start the day tomorrow with a few clouds, 15 first thing in the morning. And we're looking at risk of a severe thunderstorm through the afternoon hours tomorrow, 24 degrees, southwest winds at 10 kilometers an hour. And as we look into the weekend, slim chance of a shower on Thursday, 21 degrees. There we go, 26 for your Friday with a mix of sun and clouds if you're looking for a good patio day. 24 for Father's Day on Sunday, maybe another shower and some windy conditions, Brittany, as we get into the weekend as well.
I love a good patio. Thanks,
yes,
Riley.
You're welcome.
This Sunday marks the 46th annual Manitoba Marathon. Thousands of runners have been training and gearing up, getting ready to hit the pavement in just a few days. Manitoba Marathon Executive Director Rachel Monday joins me now. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So with just days to go, how are things looking ahead of race day?
Things look amazing. We have great numbers this year. We're back to even better than pre-COVID numbers. 3 of 5 of our distances are sold out, which is really exciting. And almost 60% of those are new first-time runners. So things couldn't be looking better. Lots of good things happening. We're really excited to be there on Sunday.
That's a huge number of first-time racers. So I'm sure they're not first-time runners, but what do runners need to know in these last few days before race day?
Well, hopefully most of the runners that are coming out have been doing their training. So typically someone who's running a full or a half has been training for 4 to 6 months. So race day is really just the icing on the cake, right? So they should remember they're on a taper. They shouldn't be running this week probably, maybe just going for some nice short runs or a little walk. They should be hydrating prior to race day. They should be eating well and watching their diet. And then they should just make sure that they know how to get there on race day and what their plans are for the weekend.
Yeah, we do know there's going to be plenty of road closures to be aware of, but after more than 4 decades, which is incredible, we like to think it's a well-oiled machine, but I'm sure there are still some hiccups. What has your team learned over the years in order to keep things running smoothly?
Well, we have a great team, and we certainly learn every year. We read runner feedback, we send out surveys post-race, and we actually read through all of them and take people's, the things that went well and the things that they think that we can work on, and we see if there's little things we can do along the course to make them better or at the race site. And then when we look at last minute, it's, for us, there's a lot of last minute planning too. There's working with the city to fill potholes and checking on construction and other road closures that we weren't anticipating and possibly remeasuring and all of those things. So there's lots of kind of last minute things for us as well as the racers that we need to complete before race day.
Filling potholes. Maybe we should have you change the route so we could get a couple more roads done.
Lots of communities appreciate us coming through, that's for sure.
Exactly. Were there any changes this year based on that feedback that you guys have received over the last few years?
I wouldn't say that there's anything significant, but we've been able to rebuild our team after COVID. We did lose some of our staff in the leaner years, and so with that, we've been able to bring back and focus on some more of the experiential parts of the race, right? So, the course is the course, and it's amazing and beautiful, but knowing that there's new runners and knowing that people are coming out, not just to run, but for an amazing morning of fun and the ambiance and the music and kind of all the different activations. We've added a few surprise and delights that people will get to see on race day.
All right, now 2 years ago, unfortunately, the race was cut short after those scorching temperatures just made it too dangerous to continue. So how closely are you watching this year's forecast?
Well, after 2022, we did realize that even though we had communication plans in place, that it was very apparent afterward that the runners didn't really know how to respond to those communication plans. So we did change last year the way that we communicate with runners both before, during, and after the race. So we are watching the weather forecast. We start sending out updates, course updates to runners 7 days out. So an email went out yesterday with a course status update. Another one's scheduled to go for tomorrow. Currently, our course status is green, so that means we're all good to go and no special measures are required. But we do get daily updates from our meteorologist, and we watch it very closely so that if we need to make any changes or adaptations to the course, we can do that, and we can let runners know what they need to do to have a safe day running as well.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much, and hopefully you have a wonderful race day on Sunday.
Thank you. I sure hope so.
Still ahead, the Green Party leader says she's read the original version of a highly publicized intelligence watchdog's report on foreign interference. She doesn't believe any of her House of Commons colleagues knowingly betrayed their country. The details when we return after the break. The Green Party's Elizabeth May says she's vastly relieved after reading the unedited version of a report on foreign interference. A heavily edited version was released last week and said some parliamentarians have actively helped foreign governments meddle in Canadian politics. The CBC's Evan Dyer looks at May's reaction and what other federal leaders are saying.
I would describe myself before reading the report as good and freaked out.
That, says Green leader Elizabeth May, is why she chose to read it.
I found myself looking around at colleagues, wondering who could it be? Who would sell out this country?
Any MP with a security clearance can read the original report without redactions.
Having read the full, unredacted National Security Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians report, for myself, I can say, I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons. There is no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada.
Not one sitting MP is accused of knowing collusion, she says.
Saying, as I do, that I'm relieved does not mean that there is nothing to see here, folks.
She says the report mentions one unnamed former MP who did knowingly give privileged information to a foreign operative.
That person, former MP, whose name is not included in the report, should be fully investigated and prosecuted. There are other examples of people currently in elected positions in Canada who are not members of Parliament.
That could include people at the subnational level, such as provincial or municipal governments, May said. She also said that foreign actors identified as seeking to influence officials include corporations as well as governments.
I want to make certain that there is none of my MPs which has any kind of implication with the foreign and hostile power.
Today, Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet said he also wants to read the report and is getting the clearance to do so.
I feel this is my duty.
And today the PM went after the leader of the opposition for not doing the same.
Elizabeth May took on her responsibilities as party leader, got her security clearance and did the work. Mr. Poilievre should do that too. He is choosing ignorance so he can play partisan politics.
But Trudeau's number 2 asked twice if the Liberals would expel any caucus member who knowingly worked for a foreign power, refused to answer. Elizabeth May was careful not to break laws in her account of what she read, and she gave just enough information to dispel some of the cloud of suspicion that hangs over the federal parliament, while raising new questions about former members and about other levels of government. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Conservatives are voting against a new federal taxation measure. Leader Pierre Poilievre says he's against the Liberal motion on the capital gains tax. It would force some individuals and corporations that make a profit selling assets to pay more tax.
It's incredible that during a housing shortage, he wants to tax home builders. During a healthcare shortage, he wants to tax away our doctors. During a food price crisis, he wants to tax our farmers. And while our economy is shrinking more than any other economy in the G7, he wants to tax our small business job creators. Mr. Speaker, isn't this the definition of insanity?
Workers at Canada's borders are no longer planning to go on strike. Their union has reached a tentative agreement with the federal government. 9,000 border employees were planning to strike beginning Friday. The Public Service Alliance of Canada says negotiators worked around the clock to reach an agreement. The union's national president says the tentative deal is a, quote, well-deserved victory. Details are still under wraps, but the Treasury Board says the deal includes wage enhancements and other benefits. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is continuing his diplomatic push in the Middle East to bring an end to the Israel-Hamas war. The UN Secretary Council has approved a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal. Hamas is reportedly seeking some amendments on the deal and said it was ready to keep working to reach an agreement. Israeli officials say Hamas has rejected the proposal after receiving the militant group's response through mediators.
The horror must stop. It's high time for a ceasefire, along with the unconditional release of hostages. I welcome the peace initiative recently outlined by President Biden and urge all parties to seize this opportunity and come to an agreement.
The White House says it's evaluating the response from Hamas submitted to mediators in Qatar and Egypt. The U.S. has said Israel has accepted the plan, although Israeli officials have not formally announced it. Blinken says he also plans to discuss post-conflict governance and reconstruction in Gaza during his visit to the region. Hunter Biden has been found guilty on all 3 felony charges at his federal gun trial in Wilmington, Delaware.
This case was about the illegal choices defendant made while in the throes of addiction, his choice to lie on a government form when he bought a gun, and the choice to then possess that gun.
Jurors found the U.S. president's son lied about his drug use on a form when purchasing a firearm 4 years ago. They came to their decision after deliberating for about 3 hours over 2 days. Hunter Biden had pleaded not guilty to the charges. He faces a possible prison term of up to 25 years. Each count also carries a maximum fine of $250,000. Joe Biden issued a statement saying he accepts the outcome and continues to respect the judicial process as his son considers an appeal. Protecting wine grapes from cold weather. As vineyards struggle with extreme temperatures killing grape and wine production, one group at the University of Saskatchewan could have the answer to their problems. More on that straight ahead. Stay with us. Canadian researchers may have found a solution to help protect wine grapes from cold temperatures. It involves spraying a plant-based compound onto their leaves and stems. Ethan Williams looks at what the early results could mean for farmers.
It looks like something out of a science fiction movie, but what's happening in this lab at the University of Saskatchewan is real, and it could change the face of agriculture. Researchers at Abazyne Biotech are creating products from a plant hormone called abscisic acid. The goal? Spray it on wine grape crops to make them withstand cold temperatures. Abscisic acid, or ABA, naturally occurs in plants. It can close a plant's stomata, the tiny pore-like structures on its leaves and stem, but natural ABA doesn't always last a long time in the plant. Abazyne says its spray can outlast natural ABA, not only making grape crops hardy to frigid temperatures, but stopping them from budding too early during midwinter warm spells. Abazyne's chief scientist says results from crops in Ontario have been promising so far.
Those grapevines, when sprayed with a solution of our analog, were able to be 5-6 degrees more tolerant to freezing temperatures.
Jim Wilworth is testing the product on his grapes at Brock University. He says it's timely research given how climate change is impacting the growing season.
We can have very warm temperatures in February and March, and that can lead to premature cold hardiness loss.
The research is beneficial for commercial wine grape growers like Matthias Oppenlander. He's lost many hectares of crop at his vineyard in southern Ontario over the years from cold damage.
If you lose your vineyard, it can cost up to $50,000 to $60,000 an acre to plant a vineyard. So not only that, you lose, it takes 3 to 4 years to bring that plant into production again.
Right now, it is a bit expensive.
Back at Abazyne, the next step is taking the product from the lab and selling it commercially, with research showing it could also be used on other fruit crops. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Riley Laychuk is back now, and thankfully, Riley, we don't have any snow in the forecast, right?
No.
Right?
No.
Right? Okay.
I'm fairly confident in saying no.
But that wind, my goodness, that's been something we've been dealing with.
Yes, and the good thing is, if you're not a fan of the wind, starting through the overnight period, we'll really start to see the winds backing off a bit to something a lot less breezy through the day tomorrow, which will be good for your dock walk in the morning, especially for pups like Maggie. Thank you, Val, for sending this picture in. Maggie might be a little bit warm tomorrow with that coat, but we are looking at sunnier conditions and, as mentioned, a lot less windy through the day tomorrow. So 24 by the time we reach the afternoon, and we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds with that chance of a thunderstorm by the time we reach the late afternoon. Talk back at cbc.ca. Please keep sending your pet pics to me because I'd love to show them on the air. Let's talk about the winds because it was certainly a windy one today across much of southern Manitoba. Here's some of the peak wind gusts from the afternoon today, 50s and 60s through the Red River Valley. Winnipeg getting up to 59 kilometer an hour wind gusts this afternoon, 60s and 70s into Westman, where we really did see the bulk of that wind. Here is where the winds stand right now, and where you don't see sort of the color shading, the color contour is where the winds have started to drop off already. So still seeing some gusty winds in Pinawa, but at the Forks, we're just seeing west winds at 11 right now. The airport, west winds gusting up to about the mid-40s at the moment, and we're seeing varying amounts of gusts through the western part of the province as well. West winds at 30 right now in the Brandon region. We did get above seasonal in southwestern Manitoba, Melita at 25 this afternoon, 23 in Brandon. You can kind of see where that clearing really happened earlier in the day through this southwest corner of Manitoba versus where we were stuck in the cloud cover here in the eastern part of the province. Overnight tonight, we will see clearing. Could see some instability through the overnight hours tonight. Temperatures around 11, 12 degrees through much of the south. 8s for Dauphin, Roblin, and the Clear Lake region. Still a few lingering showers to the north as well. 8s for Flin Flon and the Paw, 7 in Lynn Lake and Thompson, and a cloudy 1 overnight in Churchill. 2 to start the day tomorrow in the Churchill region. Sun increases as we get through the day tomorrow across northern Manitoba. So a fairly sunny day till we get to the late afternoon. Then along sort of that Highway 10 corridor, we could see a few showers popping up but mainly sunny skies further to the east across northern Manitoba. Here in the south, maybe some instability first thing in the morning. The best chance for that comes as we get into the afternoon, and you can see some of that storm activity on Futurecast here firing up by the time we reach late afternoon. 23 in Brandon, risk of a thunderstorm, 24 tomorrow afternoon in Winnipeg. Brittany, I'll have your 7-day forecast on the way.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
New ways to take payment on city buses. The city of Winnipeg is looking to update the problem-plagued Pango system on transit. We'll have more on what that could look like and why it's needed after the break.
My name is Ruby Chopsticks, or Alex Marin, and I am one of the Future 40s for CBC. I'm nominated for just kind of for being a drag artist, a drag queen, and just everything I do in the community. I've also won the Rainbow Resource Center's Drag Artist in Residence. One of my goals in drag is to really uplift and represent queer BIPOC, especially the queer youth, as when I was growing up, I didn't get a lot of representation, so I kind of wanted to give back and be able to show a prominent figure in media and in shows and panels and workshops, just so that people have at least one person they can look up to and then just be like, wow, I could do anything, I could do everything. We do always have a need and want to be equally represented and equally respected. I'm just one little aspect of the community that just wants to keep pushing for that need and for the equality, for Asian people, for BIPOC people. So I want to keep pushing for that, and I'm not the only person, but I want to be part of the solution. I wouldn't be who I am without community, and people kind of forget about that. The drag scene itself is very community-based. Like that's, if I stop doing all of this, I'm happy with everybody I've met, everybody that I got close to, all the relationships I built. Like that's, at the end of the day, what drag means to me is the people I have, people I've met, people I've loved. That's really, truly what matters. Like this can all go away and I'd still be happy. Like community is such an integral part of my life and my experiences and who I am.
Good news for those who are frustrated with the city's PEGO card system. The city is looking to update the current payment system on transit buses. They've issued a request for proposals for a new one. The upgrade would allow people to tap their phone or use a debit or credit card to pay for bus fares. Cities like Vancouver and Toronto have systems similar in their cities. Information Radio's Marcy Marcusa spoke with Brian Pincott of Functional Transit Winnipeg earlier today.
So when you read all of this, what was your reaction to the proposals?
Yes, please.
Why yes, please? What are the flaws right now in the system?
PEGO is kludgy. You need reloading it can take up to 48 hours. Our system is very kludgy. And I think we see that reflected in decreasing ridership. People just find everything about Winnipeg Transit frustrating to use. It needs to, the focus of it needs to be very much on the rider. What works best for the rider? And we need to also understand that riders are 8 years old and they are 80 years old. And we've got to have options that work for everybody.
So tapping a credit card doesn't work for an 8-year-old. It won't work for somebody that happens to not have ID either. Do you have a favorite in this list of options, or should we have a system that actually offers multi ways to pay?
I think the technology is at a point where when we go to the corner convenience store, there are multiple options of how to pay. There's no reason why it can't be the same when you're using transit. So, yeah, it needs to be something. If we want to make it the transportation method of choice for Winnipeggers, then we need to actually make it work for everybody. Is there one single one? Sure, of course. I am fully integrated in technology and apps. Give me something where I just tap my phone. That works great for me.
Got it.
My older next door neighbor who doesn't have a smartphone, that wouldn't work for them. So they wouldn't use transit. And I want them to use transit too.
Someone called in to the line. We asked people for their thoughts this morning, and please call if you're listening to the interview. You use transit. We want to know what you think. But someone called in and said that they feel like the system should be free for everybody, or they should somehow enforce payment for everyone, because they said they use transit, they're low income, they're on the bus all the time, but they notice people skipping payment altogether. I'm just wondering whether or not that's actually a concern. This was just a call we got this morning, people skipping payment.
I think ideally, transit, yes, should be free. It is a community, society benefit. Transit use benefits everyone. Whether you use it whether you use transit or not, a good transit system benefits you. If you are a driver, having more people using the bus makes your drive better. So, in an ideal world, yes, it should be free. It should be a fare free system. Also, when you take a look at it from the conflict point of view, the majority of conflicts that happen within transit happen at the fare box, where a driver and somebody who doesn't want to pay or can't pay or is just desperate to get on, that's where conflict points happen.
Should we build options into the system then to try to...
I think at this point, that is too big a leap for us to be talking about a fare-free system. But
this is about replacing the pay system.
This is about replacing a pay system. I think there are steps that we have to go through to get there. I think that we need to address those conflict points. I think that we need to address low income. The fact that we have an in or out low income transit pass as opposed to, say, a sliding scale transit pass that recognizes the range of people's ability to pay is a challenge for people of lower income who can't even afford a low income transit pass. So there's a lot there.
How could the city get this wrong?
Oh boy, there are so many examples from other cities about how you can get it wrong.
And PEGO obviously didn't work.
PEGO has had limited functionality. How they can get it wrong is by doing an RFP and not talking to the users and not talking to a broad range. If they only talk to me as a user, they'll get it wrong.
Because they'll say everybody tap your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as you outlined, that would be a preferred method.
And they'll say everybody's got a credit card because, and so if they only speak to me, they'll get it wrong. It's a matter of making sure that it is a user-centric approach. I find it, and it's really good that we're talking about this today because the primary transit network is at committee today, at City Council today, which is going to transform Winnipeg Transit next year, at the end of June next year. They're going to blow up the entire system, all the routes, put in a completely new route structure. Mm-hmm. That structure is based on what riders need, what the input of riders. So Winnipeg Transit has shown that they can take that rider-centric approach to make the system work for more people, work better. They have to do that with this as well.
Another breezy day across much of southern Manitoba. Riley Lachak is back after the break with the last check on our forecast. Stay with us.
My name is Treshelle Bunn, and I'm a Future 40 winner. I'm the youth chief of the Southern Chiefs organization, the female youth chief, so my role with that is I advocate for the youth within 34 communities in southern Manitoba. And in that role, in that capacity, this summer I have the honor of going and leading the SCO delegation to Geneva, Switzerland to attend the United Nations Expert Mechanism on the Rights of Indigenous People. Another big part of my life is being a law student. So I just finished my first year at the University of Manitoba. This past April, I was elected as the Vice President First Nations Internal Relations for the Manitoba Indigenous Law Students Association. I'm working this summer as a summer student for Legal Aid Manitoba at the University of Manitoba Community Law Centre in the province's very first prison law clinic. Another big part of who I am is being the founder and race director of the Reconciliation Run. So that's Canada's first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation half marathon. When I was younger, I never really thought of myself as a leader. I've never been the loudest person in the room or the most talkative, but I'll lead by example and kind of guide and nurture people along the way. I'm a big advocate of saying I'm not self-made, I'm community-made. I think even this experience in general and being a Future 40 recipient is really kind of falls back on my community and the way that they molded me into the person I am today. I have a picture of myself and my Kushi Mildred, who attended Burr Residential School, on the fridge of my apartment. So I think every morning I kind of just look at that and I know that every day that I'm able to capitalize on all the opportunities that she was denied and to take up spaces in spaces that she never got to occupy. Everyone's a leader and everyone has the gift to be a leader, I think is what really inspires me to lead.
Here's a look at your Wednesday day planner. Expect a sunnier day in Winnipeg and a lot less windy tomorrow as well. First thing in the morning, 15 degrees, west winds at 10. We'll see the wind shifting around slightly to southeast 10 by the time we reach the afternoon, and a chance we could see a thunderstorm, perhaps of the severe variety, by the time we reach the late afternoon as well. 21 degrees for Thursday, a chance we could see a couple of scattered showers, otherwise not much to write home about. 26, mainly sunny for Friday. Slim chance of showers, breezy on the way for Saturday, and then we are staying in the low 20s as we head into next week as well. Well, it is a once-in-a-lifetime catch for a fisherman in Newfoundland, though his prize, Brittany, was significantly smaller than a whale, more like a faded neon green soccer ball.
But it's not just any old ball. It's believed to be from a school 3,000 kilometers away. Samuel Watt has tonight's Daily Lift.
When Lee Croucher heads out on his fishing trips, he's usually looking for lobsters and crabs, not soccer balls. But when he found one lying on the shores near Beaumont, Newfoundland, he thought it'd be good for his two young daughters to play with.
So I decided to get out, got my uncle there to land me, and I got out and got the ball, and when I discovered the ball, there was a school's name on it.
That school is Ulayuk Elementary in Pond Inlet. The current principal believes the ball first made it into the ocean nearly a decade ago.
One of the students then decided to see, well, how far will this soccer ball go, and kicked it into the water.
So you could imagine the surprise of seeing a Facebook post about how the ball drifted across Baffin Bay and the Labrador Sea to Newfoundland.
I think I was most amazed of how far it had traveled and that the Sharpie was clear as day.
Croucher says he's thinking about contacting the school about the ball, but as for returning it...
I think I'm going to keep it. I think maybe the girls will keep it after, keep it in the family.
But don't worry, the school's not short on balls. They're planning on booting 2 more into the ocean in the new school year to see where the current takes them this time. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
It didn't deflate, it didn't rip. That is a well-made ball.
Very well-made ball. I wonder if the people that kicked it into the ocean a decade ago remember doing that.
Probably not.
And expected for it to turn up somewhere one day.
Well, that is your Daily Lift. That's all for us here tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.